Uh, the other day I did something that I normally don't do. Um, I do like to I do like paranormal shows. And the other day I went to one of the most haunted cemeteries in Illinois called Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. Um, there's a big backstory on it. Once I find it out here. Um, let's get here. And I usually don't do anything stupid like that. But I wanted to see if the stories were true about. Um, so starting with this is an actual story to the cemetery. I was kind of disappointed because I did not catch apparitions or hear any voices as people have claimed they have heard in the cemetery. Um, so I went there with my roommate, and we were trying to catch either ghosts or some type of apparitions or orbs on our phones, but he's the only one that caught something, and I didn't really catch anything on my phone. Um, so for Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, it's not an easy cemetery to find because it's off a turnpike in Midlothian, and it's behind some trees and some woods, so it's hard to see. And the only way and there's really no parking spots for it, except for by the woods of Rubio. Rubio Woods is across the street from Bachelor's Grove, and that's like the only parking spot you can have, and then you got to walk across the street to get to the cemetery. Um, so so about 24 miles south and slightly west of Chicago is a trail off the Midlothian Turnpike. On the south side of the Rubio Woods Forest Preserve sits the small cemetery of Bachelor's Grove, and it's one of the oldest cemeteries in all of Cook County, with the first person being buried there back in 1834. Um, so now, although there are still about 80 graves here, when I went there was less than 80. There was about 40, maybe not even that. So the headstones are sparse due to decades of vandalism and poor upkeep from the people that are supposed to take care of that place. Um, Sections of chain link fence still wrap around the perimeter, which me and my roommate did see, and there's a murky quarry pond that sits to the northwest of the and me and my roommate did see small toys and trinkets that litter the ground beside the gravestones of a couple of infants. We did see a lot of toys that were left behind there. Now, the super creepy atmosphere is only completed by dozens of ghostly sightings that people have said they have seen over the years. From a lady in a white dress who shows up in photographs to a disappearing farmhouse and more, this little graveyard makes for quite a haunting hotspot. Um, Now, is Bachelor's Grove Cemetery really haunted as people say it is? Very much so. Countless visitors have reported spooky sightings, sounds, and other experiences ever since the 1960s. Um, it was then that most of the original tombstones were defaced or toppled, or some of the coffins even being dug up, which was said to violently disturb the spirits of those who were buried here. Um, Now, to this day, several of those riled up spirits and others still make an appearance in this abandoned little graveyard. Um, Now, here's an actual photo of the woman in in the white, as people claim. This is the lady that has said to have been haunting the graveyard for over 50 years. Um, and she's known as the Madonna of Bachelor's Grove. Nobody knows how that name came to be. Um, so the Madonna of Bachelor's Grove is also known as the Woman in White or the White Lady, and she has become one of the most iconic and mysterious ghost figures associated with the hunting grounds of Bachelor's Grove Cemetery in Midlothian, Illinois. Um, the first documented appearance of this figure was captured in a photograph taken by a group of paranormal investigators back in 1979, although her presence had been rumored long before this. Um, Now, the photograph taken by a group of amateur ghost hunters exploring the cemetery showed a figure dressed in a flowing white hooded robe, carrying what appeared to be a baby in her arms. Now, the image immediately drew attention from both the paranormal community and skeptics due to the striking detail of the figure in contrast to the dark, desolate cemetery. Now, the figure in the photographs is said to have a soft, almost glowing appearance, setting her apart from the rest of the scene, even though which was covered in a veil of shadow and fog. Um, Now, as the years passed, more sightings of the woman in white were reported by those visiting the cemetery. However, in these later sightings, the ghost was no longer seen holding the baby, but instead she was often described simply wearing a white dress, wandering through the cemetery with a lost, melancholic expression. Um, Now, some say that she walks among the gravestones as though she's searching for someone, though or who or what she's looking for remains to be a mystery. Um, Now, this lack of clarity only adds to her haunting appeal. Um, so, over time, different versions of her story have emerged. One popular theory suggests that she is the spirit of a grieving mother who lost her child wandering the cemetery in search of her lost child. Um, Others speculate that she could be the spirit of a woman who died tragically and was buried in the cemetery, still tethered to the graveyard by unfinished business. Um, Now let's jump to 1991, 12 years from 1979. Perhaps the most well-known and compelling evidence of the woman in white came in 1991, when a group from the Oak Lawn Ghost Research Society captured an infrared photograph that has since become one of the most famous paranormal images in history. Um, in this image, the figure of the woman in white is seen sitting gracefully on a headstone near the north side of the cemetery, and she's gazing out at the fence and trees beyond as though lost in thought or waiting for something to come. Um, Now, the photo gained widespread attention after it was published, and many considered it to be definitive proof of the apparition. Now, the image is clear and detailed with no obvious signs of manipulation, but some skeptics, however, suggested that the image was staged. Figure could have been achieved through photographic trick. Criticisms, the photograph remains a central piece of Bachelor's Grove legend. Um, Now, while the 1991 infrared photograph is one of the most famous sightings of the woman in white, and have continued to this day, visitors to Bachelor's Grove Cemetery have reported seeing her wandering around the grounds when it's nighttime out, sometimes near the edge of the cemetery or by the old stone walls. Some say she appears as a shadowy figure, while others describe her as a glowing, ethereal being who seems to be searching for something or someone. Um, in addition to sightings of the woman in white, paranormal investigators have reported other unusual phenomena at the cemetery, including unexplained cold spots, strange noises, and fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures. Now, these occurrences only add to the mystique of Bachelor's Grove as one of the most haunted locations in the United States. Um, Now, the legacy of Woman in White, the Madonna of Bachelor's Grove, has become a central figure in local folklore as well as subject of fascination for paranormal enthusiasts and photographers. Now, I am a paranormal enthusiast. Like I said, I went with my room. Oh shit! Like I said the other day, I went with my roommate. He was the only one to catch anything on his camera. On his camera, it shows there was like a little black figure that was floating in midair. Um, but I but the only thing I felt was like you were being watched, like somebody was watching you, but you couldn't tell who. Um, now the woman in white's her image has been immortalized in countless books, articles, and documentaries, as well as in popular culture. Now, while her true identity and the reasons for her haunting remain shrouded in mystery, she continues to captivate the imaginations of all who hear her story. Whether she is the spirit of a grieving mother, a tragic victim of some unknown fate, or a spectral wanderer lost in time, the woman in white remains one of the most enduring figures in the world of the paranormal, forever tied to the haunted grounds of Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. This is another thing. I did not see this when I was here, but this is also a story that's tied to Bachelor's Grove, the disappearing house. Also known as the Phantom Farmhouse and the Magic House, another common sighting is a white, one-story Victorian house with a porch swing and a picket fence around it. The house usually appears transparent with yellow-orange light in its windows that flickers as if lit from a candle. So many reports say that it shrinks away and eventually disappears when approached, though the legend remains warning that if you do enter the house, you will never be able to return out of it. Um, um, Many reports say that it shrinks away and eventually disappears when approached, like I said, but several records show various houses standing on or near the grounds in the past, though none of them resemble the disappearing house exactly. Whosever house it was, it continues to be spotted in the cemetery to this day. Um, on occasion, you might see a strange mist. A strange mist is often seen around the building house as it fades in and out of view. Um, Now, in 1870, a farmer was plowing a nearby field with his horse when the animal became startled by something. The farmer was caught off guard, and having become tangled in the reins, was then dragged as the horse plunged into the adjacent pond of Bachelor's Grove, where they both drowned. Um, the ghostly figures of both can be seen on the surface of the pond beside the cemetery, going back to 143rd Street just beyond it. Now, the ghost of a large black and tan dog is also sometimes seen sitting quietly at the cemetery's entrance, which I did not see, as well as running down the path where it inevitably fades into thin air. There have been also rumors of blue and red ball lights have been seen at various locations along the path, and in the cemetery, hovering and dancing around. Sometimes they are said to make intelligent sorts of movements back and forth. Now, the settlement of Bachelor's Grove began when English, Irish, and Scottish immigrants arrived from New York, Vermont, and Connecticut in the late 1820s. This included the prominent Bachelor family, or Batchelder family, from whom the place was originally named for. Batchelder was often butchered as Bachelor, as seen on a couple of maps remaining from that time. In 1833, Stephen H. Rexford, Eli B. Williams, and a couple of other single men calling themselves the Bachelors also moved in, and so Bachelor's Grove became Bachelor's Grove. Um, Bachelor's Grove Cemetery first appeared in an 1864 record of land sale by Everdeen to Frederick Schmidt. This document specified the 1 acre of land to be set aside and to use it as a graveyard continued. When Schmidt sold the property in 1909, a description of the cemetery and instructions for it were also included. Sometime after that, it fell under the charge of the Fulton family, who had already buried 2 of their own in that ground by 1906, including their 1-year-old Emma Fulton. Up until the 1950s, all was well and good and rather quiet in the graveyard. Then the Midlothian Turnpike was rerouted to 143rd Street, leaving Bachelor's Grove Cemetery quite a ways off the beaten path. Now teenagers began using it as a lover's lane and a hideaway to drink underage and otherwise get up to mischief in that cemetery. This led to vandalism over the next 20 years. Many stories and monuments were toppled, broken, defaced, and even stolen. Some coffins were even dug up and ransacked. In 1975, the cemetery's last individual owner, Clarence Fulton, approached the Cook County Board about taking charge of it. He wanted their help to restore and maintain the grounds, especially after the last 15 years of careless destruction. In 1976, Bachelor's Grove officially became county property, with maintenance deferred to their Forest Reserve District, which also implemented police patrols after sunset to deter and stop any more vandals for the graves. Now, as the sign on the post by the trail's head at the turnpike reads, the cemetery is open from sunrise to sunset and after dark. It is heavily patrolled by police to stop any vandals and vagrants at the request of Cook County, Illinois. Now, during the daylight hours, feel free to bring your phone and take all the pictures and videos that you like to see if you can capture any of the numerous spirits and other anomalies that show up here. Now, like I said, I didn't catch anything when I was there, but not to say that it was for lack of trying. Now, Illinois has a lot of haunted hotspots. This one is down the street from me, and I would like to check it out. Resurrection Cemetery in Justice, Illinois. It's home to the famous Resurrection Mary ghost story, who's a hitchhiker who vanishes into thin air. Now this one shocks me. Lincoln Park Zoo. As many times as I've been there as a kid, I've never felt any ghostly presence at Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago. Um, I've never felt any ghostly presences at Lincoln Park Zoo, but not to say that there isn't anything. Many people say that um, they have a history of paranormal activity, particularly around the zoo, around the entrance of the zoo, and around the older buildings that are seen there. Um, Mantino Mental Hospital is an abandoned mental institution that's rumored to be haunted. Um, Now there's gonna be more haunted places in Illinois. Each state has their own haunting somewhere. Um, let's see what we got here, and these are things I would like to take the actual chance to go see once I get my Okay, these are actual mansions that are also haunted too. Mansions usually have a history with hauntings. Um, Benedictine University is a university in Illinois, in Lisle, Illinois. Okay, you also got chances to read more. Let's go read more. Okay, we're gonna read more on a lot of the stuff. Um, so, so when it comes to Benedictine University, which is in Lisle, Illinois, um, it's a college that's basically rumored to be haunted. This university is rumored to have quite a few ghost stories attached to this. Now, one of the stories tells the tale of a young boy ghost that wears a blue T-shirt and shorts while wandering around campus before vanishing. Now, reports say that Benedictine Hall used to be closed because it was so haunted. A clergyman was said to be the ghost that haunted the fourth floor, and in the art wing, some have reported hearing voices. There was also a rumor that on the fifth floor, an exorcism took place after a student became possessed when he and a group of friends used a Ouija board in a cemetery. Now, ghostly children are believed to haunt Jaeger Hall, and some residents have reported hearing their stereos turn on in the middle of the night. A little girl and boy ghost is said to linger in the Newsville Hall, and the two were captured on a film and were visible after the photos were developed. One room inside Andrek Hall is closed due to its hauntings as well. Another eerie occurrence here: TVs have been known to change volume for no reason at all. Um, Another one is Alton Cemetery. Is in Alton, Illinois. I've never been to Alton, but obviously now this cemetery is believed to be haunted by a number of ghosts, and one is Lucy Haskell. Lucy Haskell was a 9-year-old girl who can be seen. Who was a 9-year-old girl can be seen in the vicinity of the Hayner Haskell Monument. Another is a spectral woman dressed in black that appears near the Grandview Mausoleum. Now, third is a publisher and a minister, Elijah Lovejoy. Lovejoy was an abolitionist who was shot at a pro-slavery riot in 1837. His ghost is known to appear and hang out near his monument, and occasionally he'll manifest as cold spots. Um, Lincoln Park Zoo. Like I said, I've been here before numerous times. Never experienced anything um, as that. Okay, that would make sense. Lincoln Park Zoo on is built is Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago is located where a cemetery used to be. That would explain that would explain it. Okay, so the Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago is located where there was once a cemetery. Now, the Chicago City Cemetery was open from 1843 to 1859, and it held the remains of more than 35,000 people, and stories say that as many as 12,000 bodies still remain underneath the zoo grounds. which is to blame for most of the hauntings that take place at Lincoln Park Zoo. Um, Now, some of the eerie occurrences at the zoo include that of ghosts wearing Victorian era clothing wandering throughout the park, and they appear out of nowhere and then disappear quickly. One of these ghostly women is usually spotted near the lion house, walking around oblivious to visitors passing by her. This same ghost has also been seen in the ladies' restroom near this exhibit, and her reflection has been seen in the mirror only to disappear when the person turns around. Flickering lights and doors slamming on their own have also been reported at the zoo. Um, I've never had that experience there. Um, you also got Three Mile House. So when it comes to 3 Mile House, this is in Edwardsville, Illinois. The site once featured an inn that was believed to be haunted by ghosts of various adults and children, including former slaves. It has been said that the old inn was once a stop on the Underground Railroad, and that during renovations in the 1970s, a skeleton and underground tunnels were found. Eerie things began to happen, including furniture that moved by itself, flickers and orbs of light, and water turning on and off on its own. The piano playing by itself, shadowy figures, napkins that folded and unfolded by themselves, um, and much more. A seance took place and determined that the ringleader of the ghost was a guy named Tom, who was a slave who escaped and accidentally killed a woman, and because of this, he was brutally murdered. Um, Tom was a religious man, and stories say that his spirit is not yet at peace, and the inn burned down in the 1980s, and today the site is just a grassy mound. Um, McPike Mansion. This is also in Alton, other than the cemetery. Like I said, Alton has a lot of hauntings themselves. Um, and here's a picture of the mansion. I don't know if there's anything. It's open to the public. I'm not sure, but this is the mansion outside here. It looks like it's really old. This mansion dates back to 1869. And it's known for quite a few paranormal occurrences. Apparitions have been seen in the halls, and children's laughter has been heard. And this actual mansion has been featured on an episode of The Scariest Places on Earth to Go Visit. Um, there's the Congress Plaza in downtown Chicago. That's another one that's haunted. I've been in cars that drove past the place, and this Congress Plaza has a connection to Al Capone. Um, this hotel is extremely old and has quite a few ghost stories surrounding it. It was built over 100 years ago, at the Congress Plaza Hotel in 1908. It's been said that gangster Al Capone once lived here, while other reports say that he once owned the hotel and used it for his headquarters. When research was done, though, it was said that Al Capone actually never stayed here, but witnesses say his spirit can be seen at the hotel, wandering the halls. Um, Now, when it comes to hotels, they always say that one room has a connection to paranormal activity. So it's rumored that room 441 at this hotel is one of the most haunted rooms, and that you can see a shadowy figure of a woman inside it. And there's also the story of Peg Leg Johnny, who was murdered at the hotel long ago. Um, a workman was said to be buried behind the walls of the hotel when it was being built, and it's been said that his gloved hand sticks out of a wall in the closets behind the balcony in the gold room. This room is also rumored to be haunted by some bridesmaids who like to gather around the piano for photos, but do not actually show up in the pictures. Um, John Wayne Gacy's house. John Wayne Gacy was a serial killer back in the 1970s who would dress up as a clown and murder kids. especially he preferred boys. John Wayne Gacy was a serial killer back in the 1970s who hid the remains of at least 29 different people in and around his home on his Somerdale Avenue. In 1979, his home was demolished. Um, but locals were confused at the fact that the lot remained mostly barren for years after. The grass and weeds did not seem to grow at all on the property. Because of this, stories began to emerge that the property was haunted by Gacy's victims. In 1989, a new home was built on the property, and its new owner petitioned the city to change the number of the street address. Um, okay, Anderson Cemetery, also known as Cemetery X. Stories of this cemetery say that there is a secret passage that opens up at night when trees part and a path appears to an ancient graveyard. A phantom wolf is rumored to protect it and chase away trespassers. Now, please note the cemetery is not to be confused with another one called Anderson Cemetery near Palmer, Illinois. Um, and like I said, cemeteries all have a story behind their hauntings. You got Graceland Cemetery in Chicago. Um, So Graceland Cemetery in Chicago. This old cemetery is said to be haunted by the spirit of a guy named Inez Clark, or actually a woman, actually a little girl named Inez Clark. A young girl who was fatally struck by lightning while having a picnic there when she was like 7 years old. On her gravestone, there is a life-size statue of her enclosed in glass. It's rumored that on that rainy night the statue vanishes and the little girl's apparition can be seen wandering the cemetery. Um, then you got Rialto Square Theater in Joliet, Illinois. And then you got Schwepp Mansion in Lake Forest, Illinois. Mount Olivet Cemetery in Aurora. Um, Cahokia Mounds in Collinsville, Illinois. The Country House of Clarendon Hills in Clarendon Hills, Illinois. Um, no, here's the one I actually want to go to: Resurrection Cemetery in Justice, Illinois. It's called the Resurrection Mary. Okay. So Resurrection Cemetery. It's said that a pretty girl was killed in a hit and run accident while walking on Archer Avenue, and she was left to die on the streets. Her parents ended up buried her at the cemetery. Her ghost is said to remain there, and people have reported seeing her spirit since the 1930s. Now, some say she appears like a hitchhiker asking to be driven home, and she would disappear. She's also been sighted standing in front of the cemetery while some drivers claim to have had a near miss with her on the road, but they would come out of the car to see that there was nothing there. Um, Now this cemetery is down the street from me, and I would actually like to make a trip over there one day just to check it out. Um, and then you got Ashmore Estates in Ashmore, Illinois. Um, you also got the Drake Hotel in Chicago, Illinois. Um, now this Drake Hotel has had a lot of famous people perform there and stay there. Now Chicago's Drake Motel dates back to 1920 and has seen the many likings of many famous celebrities such as Bing Crosby, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Marilyn Monroe, Queen Elizabeth II, Winston Churchill, and Princess Diana. But there's also some ghostly spirits that like to appear here as well. Some ghostly characters at the Drake Hotel include mourning parents of a 15-year-old boy named Bobby Franks. He was kidnapped and killed in the early 1920s, and his parents moved to the hotel after the murder trial, and it seems that they never left. But there are also two famous women who linger in the hotel in spirit. There's the mysterious woman in black, who was shot and killed and she was a Chicago socialite inside her eight floor suite in the early 1940s. And then there's the woman in red, who's believed to be the oldest ghost of them all, and her ghostly apparition can be seen haunting the Gold Coast Room, the Palm Court, and on the 10th floor. Um, then you got White Cemetery in Barrington, Illinois. Rockford College in Rockford, Illinois. Rolfe House in Watseka. Um, Morton College in Cicero. Congress Theater in Chicago. Now, the Congress Theater is no longer in use, but the Congress Theater is no longer in operation. But when it was, there had been many rumors that it was haunted by a number of entities. A woman's apparition and shadowy figure were seen in reports of the disembodied footsteps and eerie noises as well. Sometimes they don't like when a lot of times cities that might own these properties do not like when you trespass, so you got to get special permission to be able to visit these places. Now, cemeteries are open to the public, so I don't think that they really care. But any places that are closed down, those are the ones you got to get permission for. Um, um, wow. Okay, restaurants on here that's haunted. Chicago Chop House. Um, Chicago Chop House is a beloved steakhouse in River North, and it offers prime steaks, fresh seafood, historic photos, and some ghost stories. Too. Before the location operated as a steakhouse, um, excuse me, and now before the location opened up as a steakhouse, the historic brownstone building was a single-family residence owned by the by the Minier family, and Robert Minier was an electrician who first made local headlines when he was credited for keeping the Alice Stafford, a steamer ship he was working on, from exploding in the middle of Lake Michigan. Unfortunately, tragedy struck the Minier family in 1906 when Robert's daughter, Florence, passed away at the age of 9. Her spirit is said to linger in the building, and witnesses have reported hearing a child crying, seeing wine glasses fly off the bar before shattering on the floor, lights turning on and off on their own, and sightings of apparitions on each level of the restaurant. Now, the most paranormal hotspot at the steakhouse is said to be on the third floor in the evening, so if you're in the mood for some wine, dining, and ghosts, be sure to check out the Chicago Chop House if you're interested in trying to get ghost stories. That would be on my list to visit. Um, I've been to this one before. Never had anything happen to me when I was here. Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. Um, Now, the University of Carbondale is the Southern Illinois University is home to many haunted buildings. They include the Wheeler Hall, Fanner Hall, Anthony Hall, Shy Rock Auditorium, and May Smith Residence Hall. Now, some believe the spirits of former university president Henry William Shyrock exists in the auditorium. He died there suddenly in 1935, and now people believe the instances here, where the stage lights would turn on and off on their own, or the action of his spirit. There's also other haunting experiences reported, including doors opening and closing on their own, people seeing shadowy figures, and sounds of typing and file cabinet drawers opening, particularly at the May Smith Residence Hall, where it's believed to be that of the spirit of a former secretary. And there was a previously secretary who died on the job there. Well, she just collapsed at her desk. Um, like I said, I've been to Southern Illinois University and have never experienced that there. Um, you got Hotel Barker in St. Charles. Um, then you got Julia Markham and Death Curve. Um, so, in 1905, at Julia Markham at Death Curve, is this is in Timber. This is off of Timber Ridge Road. In 1905, Julia Markham killed her 7 children with an axe before setting the house on fire and killing herself. Locals tell the story of a woman wearing a white flowing gown who glides across the field on quiet evenings, and this spirit is believed to be Julia. So she pulled a Lizzie Borden. Lizzie Borden killed her parents with an axe, even though she was let go because they couldn't prove it was her. Um, Willow Creek Farm. Then you got Cigars and Stripes. You got, like I said, a lot of these ones are in Illinois because I live in Illinois. If I had a car and I knew how to drive, I would get to these places so I could just check them out and see if they're really haunted as they claim they are. Um, then you got Webster's Wine Bar. Okay, this one is in Chicago too, so there's a lot of places in Chicago to check out for hauntings. I'm just surprised that Lincoln Park Zoo is on there. I didn't see Brookfield on there. Not to say that Brookfield isn't haunted. I guess we'll check that out too itself. Like I said, once I get my car, once I get a license, and I'm gonna travel to all these haunted places, and not just Illinois, but in every state, just to see if they're haunted as they claim. Um, one of the places that's top notch for paranormal activity is New Orleans, Louisiana. Um, that's a big place where they have a lot of paranormal activity at. I don't know why. Don't ask me because I haven't researched enough. But that would be something to check out. Um, Now, let's see if my thing came up yet. Here. Let's see if I can find it here. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Um, yeah, it's not showing up on here. So if you wanted to follow me on Facebook, you can follow me at Rusty Van Wyk. Um, and there should be something on here that shows you the photos I posted of when I was at Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, and you could see some of the photos I took of me being there and seeing and trying to capture ghosts, but I didn't capture anything when I was there, so we didn't get nothing on that. Um, so I'll be back next week. Let me know what you guys think of the paranormal activity hauntings, and tell me if you would go in search of ghosts just to prove whether they exist or not. That was one of my theories as to doing this. Um, I originally went to Bachelor's Grove Cemetery because I heard the rumors that it was haunted. I'm just disappointed it didn't capture anything. Um, so tell me if you believe that ghosts exist or not. Let me know if you would ever go on a ghost hunt, and who would you bring with you. If you want to, if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. Also, make sure to hit the notification bell and to smash that like and subscribe button. Leave a comment and let me know what you guys are all thinking. And I'll be back next week with another video.